in the heart of South Auckland, specifically the suburb of Otara. A complex and often challenging social landscape has long been intertwined with the presence of organised crime. New Zealand's gang scene, while perhaps smaller in scale than some international counterparts, exerts a significant influence on local communities. Within this context, one figure stands out as central to the evolution of a notorious gang, Josh Masters, founder of the Killer Beez. His story is not one of simple villainy or heroism, but rather a compelling narrative showing how environmental and socio-economic factors can determine outcomes, how circumstances shape an individual's path. The melting pot which allowed him to rise from the streets of Otara to become a powerful and controversial figure in New Zealand's underworld. This documentary aims to present an honest and unfiltered account of his life, tracing his path from childhood through to his current status. Understanding Josh Masters' journey is crucial to comprehending the dynamics of gang culture in contemporary New Zealand. Joshua James Masters was born in 1978, growing up in the vibrant yet often turbulent environment of Otara, South Auckland. His family background, like many in the area, was rooted in the Polynesian community that had migrated to New Zealand in search of opportunity. Otara at the time was a place of strong community ties, but also one grappling with socio-economic challenges and limited opportunities, an issue still prevalent to this day. Masters had an unsettled upbringing and education, being passed around family members and living all over Otara. He attended every primary school, both intermediates and both secondary schools in the district. After repeating the fifth form, Masters left school at the age of 17. He passed some academic subjects but excelled at sport, especially rugby league. A significant formative period for Josh Masters was his involvement in combat sports like kickboxing. This pursuit began in his youth and continued into his early adulthood, contributing to him being physically powerful and capable. His skills in the ring, combined with a natural charisma and an emerging leadership presence, began to forge his reputation beyond the confines of his immediate neighbourhood. Masters was also an aspiring rapper who called himself Gravity, appearing in music videos and even setting up a music label, Colorway Records, which promoted local musicians. This early exposure to a structured yet competitive environment, where respect was earned through performance and strength, would prove to be an important precursor to his later endeavours. As Josh Masters matured, so did his involvement with the local gang scene in South Auckland. At 21 years old, Masters was a patched member of the Tribesmen Motorcycle Club, a dominant and already well-established gang. He followed in the footsteps of Vern Wilson, a well-known Tribesmen member and league player. He was described as being the only father figure Masters had. Although young, Masters earned a reputation that set him apart, combining street-smart intelligence and a business-focused mindset with a natural ability to gain and command loyalty. Within a few years, he was the president of the Tribesmen's Otara chapter. Around 2003, a pivotal moment in Josh Masters' story and in the landscape of New Zealand gangs occurred. The Tribesmen made a calculated, strategic move by recruiting an army of rebellious young men. The Killer Beez were born. Masters, at 25 years old, was instrumental in their formation, bringing his leadership and business savvy. The Killer Beez were different from typical youth gangs due to the influence of Masters. The gang appealed to disenfranchised youth as a potent combination of contemporary hip-hop street culture and the structure of traditional patched gangs. Masters projected an aura of invincibility and charisma, enticing directionless youths en masse to his black and yellow brotherhood. At the time, the gang's emblem featured a stark skeleton hand, reminiscent of the Grim Reapers, defiantly raising its middle finger, a blunt statement of their mindset. This imagery was almost always paired with the two-letter rallying cry, AO, shorthand for all out, phrases that captured their uncompromising willingness to go to any lengths for their cause. Rising through the Killer Beez ranks alongside Masters was his close friend, Agustino Tai, a relationship that would become a pivotal element in Masters' story. Upon their formation, the Killer Beez quickly plunged into serious criminal activity, unleashing a wave of unprovoked assaults across Auckland, many times against entirely innocent victims. These attacks, wielding golf clubs, bats, and even fence palings, became notorious for their brutality. Police later concluded that the Killer Beez were being used as toy soldiers by the tribesmen called in when enforcement was needed. In January 2008, a group of Killer Beez fired firearms into a house bordering Otara. a tinny house, run by a family who had recently cut ties with the tribesmen. The term tinny house is used in New Zealand to describe a property which deals in tinfoil packages of marijuana, usually smaller amounts worth between $20 to $100. During this incident, Agustino Taye was struck in the face by shotgun pellets and lost his left eye. That same month, the Killer Beez were linked to a number of violent acts across Auckland, including severe beatings. Masters kept his silence for months until an interview with journalist John Campbell, where he publicly denied any connection between the Killer Beez and violence or drug dealing. He claimed to have no drug convictions.
How do you make your money? There have been suggestions that you're running tinny houses out here, that you guys are selling drugs, and that's where the money's from. Is that the case?
No, it's not. It's not the case at all.
Are you selling pee?
No.
What's your attitude towards pee?
We're against it. We hate it. You know, to become a Killer Bee, there's 3 rules that we have, and that's no smoking pee, sticking fat, and staying loyal.
Sticking fat means?
It means if there's problems that you have at home, personal problems, or if there's problems like what's been going on with the media coverage and the newspapers just spreading a whole lot of garbage about us, don't lose faith, you know, never lack faith, because that's something that no one can take away from you, is your faith.
Detectives launched Operation Leo, which intercepted over 110,000 phone calls and text messages. In May 2008, Masters and 43 other Killer Beez and tribesmen members were arrested. Police seized approximately $500,000 worth of meth and cannabis, 20,000 cash, stolen property, motorcycles, and cars, including Masters' new Harley Davidson. Masters was denied bail and remanded in custody. In 2010, he admitted all charges against him, pleading guilty to supplying methamphetamine, conspiracy to supply the Class A drug, and money laundering through Colorway Records. Masters attempted to delay the case, claiming poor legal advice. In July 2012, Justice Kit Toogood sentenced Masters to 10 years and 5 months in prison, stating he found Masters' explanation for his involvement completely lacking in credibility. The judge noted Masters' genuine leadership qualities and business acumen, regretting that they were not confined to legitimate enterprises. Despite Masters being in prison, the harsh environment proved to be fertile ground for recruiting alienated and angry young men. Masters' army kept growing behind bars, and the Killer Beez soon earned a reputation as dangerous prisoners with brutal attacks on other inmates and guards. By 2015, the Killer Beez were the 4th largest prison gang with 167 affiliates. Prison intelligence reports provided to the parole board showed a mobile phone and a large quantity of drugs had been found inside Masters' cell. The report stated, Masters remains involved at a high level in the Killer Beez gang, using the cell phone to orchestrate activities with members outside. Masters claimed the reports were a fiction, and that he had retired from the tribesmen, no longer having any association with the Killer Beez. In August 2015, the parole board found Masters' explanation for his misconduct disingenuous and declined parole. Parole was again declined the following year due to confrontational and at times intimidatory behavior. In May 2018, with his statutory release date approaching, Masters was released as he was no longer considered an undue risk to the community. He was back, with a black and yellow army that was bigger than ever. By the time he left prison, the ranks of the Killer Beez had swollen to 312 members, making them the 4th largest gang in New Zealand behind bars. Not long after his release, tensions between the Killer Beez and the tribesmen flared as Masters reasserted himself. This led to a string of tit-for-tat shootings and violence in Otara not seen for a decade. On Friday, April 26, 2019, at 1:46 p.m., Josh Masters pulled into the driveway of Auckland's Harley Davidson dealership in Mount Wellington on his new motorcycle, which was a status symbol signifying his newfound freedom. He had just picked up the keys to the bike after minor repairs, but returned because the gear lever was sticking. His previous Harley had been seized in police raids that sent him to prison. Standing at the service counter was none other than Agustino Taye. Even with just one good eye, Taye instantly recognized Masters. As Masters rode down an alley beside the dealership, Taye moved quickly, pulled out a black semi-automatic 9mm pistol, and fired. The single bullet went through Masters' left arm, ripped into his torso, and lodged in his spinal canal. Masters collapsed on the asphalt, pinned under his fallen Harley. Ty then attempted to reload and fire again, but the gun jammed due to his repeated pulling of the slide, ejecting the remaining rounds. Witnesses heard someone yell, "I told you not to come around here," before Ty calmly drove away as Masters lay still on the ground. Masters was rushed into emergency surgery to save his life and remove the bullet. He survived the shooting, but as a result of the spinal injury, he is now paraplegic and will require caregiver assistance for the rest of his life. Ty handed himself in to police shortly after midnight, along with the pistol, but declined to explain anything. Masters also never spoke to police about the incident. Ty initially pleaded not guilty to attempted murder, but later offered to admit guilt to the alternative charge of wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. The Crown eventually accepted this offer due to trial delays and Masters' refusal to be a witness, and Ty pleaded guilty in April 2020. After numerous failed parole applications, Ty has since been released from prison as of April 2025, serving 5 of his original 7-year sentence. Despite his physical condition, Masters continues to be viewed as a significant figure within the Killer Beez, maintaining a symbolic leadership role. Joshua James Masters' journey from the streets of Otara to the leadership of one of New Zealand's most notorious gangs has left an indelible and deeply destructive mark on the country. He founded the Killer Beez, transforming what began as a youth feeder group into a ruthless network responsible for drug trafficking, violence, and widespread community harm. His story illustrates the complex interplay of social conditions, personal ambition, and the allure of gang life. From his early days in kickboxing to his rise within the tribesmen and the subsequent creation of the Killer Beez, Masters has been a central figure in a narrative that reflects broader societal challenges. He was described as possessing genuine leadership qualities and undoubted business acumen, skills that, in a different environment or with different opportunities, might have led to a very different path. Masters was born into a community still reeling from the 1970s dawn raids. Government-led operations that singled out Polynesian families for alleged visa breaches, regardless of their actual residency status, detaining hundreds of innocent people and shattering trust in public institutions. Otara's boarded-up homes, underfunded schools, high unemployment, and stretched social services only deepened that sense of betrayal, making many young people feel like outsiders in their own country. In that void, gangs offered not just identity and protection, but a dangerous shortcut to power and purpose. The Killer Beez, blending contemporary hip-hop street culture with the strict hierarchy of a patched gang, channeled those frustrations into a potent, marketable package that unfortunately resonates with many disenfranchised youth. While we can trace the social and historical forces that shaped Josh Masters' rise, the violence and criminality it spawned cannot be ignored. His story underlines society's urgent need to build better pathways and opportunities so that leadership and ambition are steered toward positive rather than destructive outlets. What are your thoughts on the impact of gang culture, whether in communities like Otara or your own hometown? Share your perspectives in the comments below. If you found this documentary informative, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more in-depth explorations of often overlooked, lesser-known stories. Who else would you like to see us detail next? Your engagement helps us continue to shed light on otherwise unheard narratives.